So it's pretty much well established. One of the most effective and fastest ways and the most controllable ways for you to grow your personal credit is through expanding your available credit and growing your credit limits. This is the second most impactful way to, that your credit score is calculated by other than payment history. And this is one of the most controllable factors in a fast amount of time. You can only pay your bill and only get reporting at least for it once a month. You can't control that. You can only control stuff like age by letting it age, but you can control utilization by influencing your credit limits as often as possible by qualifying and applying for credit limit increases on an every 3 to 6 month basis. I've shot a video recently around the importance of this and how this is such a scalable strategy. Today's video is going to actually cover a top tactic or strategy you can use to scale your credit limits and thus your credit score overall very fast and efficiently. And I want to give that to you so you're not just hopping around at random institutions. You have a clear-cut strategy to get this done in the shortest window of time, and I'm going to break it down for you in a very quick and concise video. This is JP from Blueprint for Prosperity, helping you to increase your net worth through relationship banking, maximizing your borrowing capacity, proper use of life insurance, and the ownership of real estate. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm uploading content on a daily basis to help you customize your blueprint for prosperity. So the first thing you're going to want to do is do a little bit of homework. They're all over the country. They could be local to you, or they could just be somewhere that's accessible nationwide. You want to find an institution that is known for easy credit approvals and high credit limits. Most commonly, this is going to be credit unions and smaller banks, regional banks. So a good example of this is Navy Federal Credit Union. This is just one, but this is a good example of an institution that is well documented for, approving people for credit cards, even when they have subpar or less than favorable credit, even sometimes negative items, even sometimes high utilization, and giving very liberal limits on those cards, even with credit challenges. They are one of those institutions who gives you an opportunity to develop as long as you're establishing a strong banking relationship with them. They are just one example, but these institutions exist all over the country. You are probably going to have to do a little bit of research to your local area, and you'll do that by looking at whatever institutions are local to you and then making a few phone calls or stopping into a couple branches. If you're willing to do a little bit of that legwork, then you can find one of these hidden gems right amongst you in your given zip code or city and start to use this tactic. Once you found this institution, you're going to want to start a strong banking relationship with them based on your financial situation. So establishing, a checking account, a savings account, ideally, if you can roll in a direct deposit, even if it's not a huge amount, just a few $100s a month to get the ball rolling, this is going to be very effective. Once you graduate from setting up a strong banking relationship with this institution, from that point on, what you're going to want to do is get whatever credit card that you can qualify for at that given time with them. They're likely going to have 2, 3, maybe a few more credit cards available depending on the size of that institution. And those credit cards are usually going to be tiered off into features and benefits, but most importantly, underwriting, meaning that some cards are going to be easier to get approved for than others. And even if you have to start with a secured card, of course, you want to check and see if it releases your balance back to you at some point in time. Do you have to get a hard inquiry to get that secured card? Things like that. But at the end of the day, whatever it takes for you to get your foot in the door, go for it. Once you've done that, the point of picking this type of institution kicks in at this point, because what happens is once you reach that first level and you can demonstrate for a good 3 to 6 month window of time that you can manage that card, use it effectively and pay it off on time or early. At that point in time, the liberal nature of this institution and them trusting you through developing a banking relationship is going to allow you to most likely start to get access to higher limits at scale. So you want this institution to hopefully do soft pulls for credit limit increases. You have to check on this as well. This is something you should be asking them upfront early before you start this relationship, because that's ideally what you're looking for. You don't want to have to take a hard inquiry for a credit limit increase. For that matter, you just go get a new credit card from the beginning and get some better features and benefits that way. So once you have that under wraps, you know that they only soft pull. The point of this at that point in time now is to hopefully, scale your credit limits in no time, 3 to 6 months at a time, you're scaling your credit limits. You really only want to be able to do this with like, 1 to 2 cards within that institution. The reason you want to do that is because if you can continue to qualify for credit limit increases indefinitely, months on out, then what happens without having to incur hard inquiries, especially what happens is you blow those limits up on those cards, they're blowing up on your report. So without having to go through shopping around in other banks and possibly getting denied because you're not quite there yet, you're building your score up almost overnight. You're building your limits up. So now what happens is you have high limits with a credible financial institution without a lot of hard inquiries and damage on your credit report to do so. You're learning more about your finances. You're learning more about how to use credit cards. And now when it's time, when you get to a certain point, ideally around the upper 4 to 5 figures in credit limits, you now should be at a credit score and at a credit limit range where other financial institutions you may be interested in developing your personal credit with, like bigger banks, are now going to look into your credit profile and see, wow, this person has high limits, they have low inquiries, and they've been managing these accounts well. Banks will see that from other financial institutions and see that as credibility. And they're going to compete with those limits. So if they see that one institution is trusting you with $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, they're likely going to match or even exceed those limits if you qualify. You're going to want to do this by, again, establishing a reasonable banking relationship with them, meaning that you're conducting most of your banking business with this one institution, having consistent, stable income, and hopefully scaling income, even if it's just a few $1,000s a year, is helpful. Once you have gotten these things in place, what happens again is these institutions are able, the bigger, more prominent institutions that have these nicer credit cards and higher limits are gonna qualify you based on what these other institutions have taken the risk to offer you. In their mind, they're saying, well, this person's already managing X amount of dollars from this credible institution. So it's a highlight. They've taken the blunt of the risk because they've already managed these people's accounts really well. I feel comfortable giving them similar or possibly even more because they have a track record already. It's all about data points. So you're building it up with one sturdy, liberal institution who's not holding you to as high of a standard early on as you're developing and allowing you to scale up within their institution before you have to go out there into the marketplace and maybe bump your head by not qualifying for these bigger institutions that have nicer products and nicer credit cards. So you're getting yourself in shape, low risk, establishing a relationship, and going to these other institutions completely polished. In the meantime, your credit score is going through the roof because I'm telling you now, as your credit limits increase, this is one of the most impactful ways to blow up your credit. And it's the way to do it at scale. Because again, while you're waiting month after month for payment history, month after month for age, you're blowing the second most impactful part of your score up seemingly overnight. And again, why do you want to pursue high limit credit funding? You need to have your why. The reality of that is you're probably, hopefully looking to scale your credit up to a high level. So any other financing from that point in time is dirt cheap with the best rates, best terms. The next reason that you're going to want to do this is hopefully so you can get access to extremely cheap capital and invest it in investments, assets, or launching a business. You don't want high credit limits just to have high credit limits. That's not the point. You want to use this to scale yourself up to a point where you can finance almost anything, or at least more than enough to put you in a position to grasp assets at cheap dollar amounts with other people's money, or launch businesses that bring in significant income that wipe out the debt that you use to acquire that business and surplus into your pocket. You use somebody else's money. It's a way more scalable and effective way to build wealth in this country. And that is the guts to why you're looking to have high credit limits in the first place. And I just broke down to you one of the most effective and fastest ways to get it done within one institution. And if done properly, this could be something where you can accomplish this in anywhere from 9 to 15 months. It may sound like a lot to some of you, depending on how you look at timelines, but I'm telling you now, somewhere around a year and a half to be in a position where you can go from scratch, almost not qualifying for credit cards at all, to qualify for upper 4 to 5 figure limits is phenomenal and insane, especially if you don't have to incur hard inquiries along the way. So I hope this strategy makes sense to you. I plan to elaborate in this more in other videos, but please comment down below if you have more questions, or if you want more of a breakdown on how this could work, or how to find institutions in your area that might fit for this strategy. Comment down below. I love to shoot more content around it. Thank y'all for tuning in. I enjoy bringing you this content. As always, I want y'all to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.